Yeah, so this one's really important actually for the usability of things because we find users, they get into a system that they haven't used, or they're just busy doing other things and they come back to work with other content and they can't find it or they forget where they put it. And really, what you need to do is start by assuming every user is new, right? So how do users find their content? How is it organized in the system, right? So it, a lot of headless systems, content systems came out initially, and it was just a big list of every single piece of content. And way back, you couldn't categorize it that well, you couldn't filter it that well. It was just like a global search. And that's okay if you know what to search for, but it's not always that easy. So you need to assume that users are new, they don't know how to find the content, and you need to start organizing and doing different things. So one of the first things you need to do is group your types of content. So in different systems, obviously it's different on how to do that. Joel, can you jump to the next part there? So group your types of content. So in our system, within the content area, you can create folders. And within those folders, you can kind of group different lists or items of content within that. So it's kind of like tagging or categorizing that content. So for example, I know that on our website, we have a resources section. And within our resources section, we have guides, blog posts, webinars, videos, all these things. So what we've done within our content area is we have a section called resources, and we keep all of those types of content within that area. And it's just a way, it actually doesn't make any difference on the front end of the website or apps or other places we use that content. It's not part of the content model. This is actually part of the content platform itself and how you set it up to find the content. So when I go into the content area, I can scroll down to resources, and I can go in there, and I only have 5 or 6 or 7 items there where I can be like, oh, there's my blogs, or there's my news release, or whatever that may be. So this is more about configuring the content platform, not configuring the model, but it massively affects the usability for people coming in and trying to find things. So instead of going through 100 types of content, maybe I go through 10 to 15 categories and then drill in to find that content. The other thing that's also very platform dependent is simplifying managing common structures like pages. So this is a little bit agility specific because we have something called page objects or page content. So you can actually group together content in either content kind of blocks, content components, or module components within a page, and say, I have this page, home page, blog page, and within it, this content shows up. And so it's a way of grouping your content in higher level structures, and different systems have different types of higher level structures. We do pages, we have assets, we have these other things that are higher level from content, or lower level in the asset area, which allows you to say, you know what, I know what this asset is, or I know what this page is on some device or some solution. I know what content's on there. I can go into my CMS or content platform, I should say. It's more of a platform than a system. And I can find that content easily. So I can say, I go to the homepage, I know on the homepage I have a blog post showing up, or I have a slider, and I know that within that page, that content should appear there. So I can drill in and find it a different way than just going to a global search or going to the content area and drilling through a whole bunch of other content. So I think for us, I know for a lot of our users, the idea of a page structure or a way to find my content through my page is super critical and has become a major usability benefit of our platform and the users that use it. So it's not that we're building pages or we're doing anything like that. It's really for usability to find your content. That is the main purpose of pages.
I agree with that one, John. And one thing to interject a little bit to talk about pages, a lot of times page structures are not necessarily the same as like a shared content structure with like lists of content that are more reusable. Pages don't tend to be as reusable if you implement a new design. So it's important to understand when you're setting up structures like pages to tell the difference of that content that is very specific for that design that you're currently implementing. Maybe it's a design system, maybe it's a new CSS refresh with some new design elements that you have as part of your website or your app or whatever. But to understand that there's certain elements that are specific to that design and certain elements like lists that are, like a blog post or something, or an article that is going to be reusable across all designs, and to make those, searchable and findable, but also so you can differentiate which is design specific and what's not design specific.
Yeah, 100%. And the neat thing about that we've had some discussions with people on is whether all of your content should be reusable and in the content area. Like a lot of headless systems have all the content in a content area, even content that's used once. And so we have a different viewpoint on that, where if you have a homepage and you have a little blurb that says something like this is the homepage, or I don't know, something that would never be used anywhere else. If you put that in the content area with all your other content and all your other reusable content, you're kind of, poisoning that area. You're diluting, you're making it busy with all this content that will never be used again. And so that's why we really say pull that out and put that somewhere, either more design, because it's more design focused. It's more the design first, second, thing that you got to design second, I like to say, but it's more design related. And so you don't want to mix up with your beautiful content structures that content that's only used once. And so that's how we architect moving that out onto the page side.
That's some strong language from John Voight there. Don't poison your content. We want
beautiful content that's supposed to be reusable and all these things. Yeah. It kind of does mess it up. And then you get that system that just has so much content in there, and maybe you change that page and no longer use that content. It's sitting there and it's not doing anything, but it's in there messing up. And really, we see like relating, organizing, and finding content. The longer you have your system, the more these things are important, right? So you want to do it up front. And then the last thing is ensuring global and content type specific searches work. So what I mean by content type specific, so most systems have a global search. You can search across everything. That kind of makes sense. Content type specific is I'm in a blog post listing and I'm searching just that list. And, are the right attributes exposed to be searched on? Are you showing the right properties in the grid so if you get results back, you can actually find the content you're looking for? And is the content part of, I use a blog post because I just talked about it. Is it part of that blog post content, or is it part of linked content? Because if you're searching for all blog posts with a certain category, but you don't have the category on the blog post, your blog post won't show up if you search for that category. So you have to start thinking about how will users search for the content? Does it come back properly? And do some test runs with it when you're building your model and be like, if I search for these terms or I search for this, will the proper content show up that I want to show up? And this one's a big one because I think generally the world is going more to a huge amount of information and just using searches and things like that to get to their content. Because, trying to do folder structures or page structures or grouping or these other things are a little older school, but they work really great for smaller things. But you have to have the search working as well when you get into these massive, massive solutions that just can't be organized properly in folder and page structures.
Yeah, I was working with a customer the other day, and we had a chance to look at their old system, and it had a big tree structure for all of the content, which I think was probably really good at one point, but over the years, it had just turned into this thing where you could find it if you were the one that put it there. And it's like, you got to click here, then there, and then expand all these things. So just having it be more intuitive. And I think people are expecting a lot more from search these days. And it's really important to make sure that it does what you expect it to do.